Women's equality issues have been in the news since the 19th century when the suffragettes protested for the right to vote. Women have come a long way since then, and with the real possibility of a female in the Oval Office next year, you might think that women have finally arrived. However, there are millions of women who are hitting the glass ceiling at their jobs and making less money than their male colleagues for the same work. We'll discuss why this is still the case and what can be done to level the playing field. We'll also hear about how many men need help navigating work and relationships in the 21st century. Jeffrey Tobias Halter is president of Why Women, a strategic consulting company, and author of Why Women, the leadership imperative to advancing women and engaging men. He says that one of the reasons why women continue to lag behind men in pay and advancement is that CEOs look around the organization and think they're already doing a good job of bringing women up the corporate ladder. Halter says there's a name for this: male leader gender fatigue.
What the research shows is 56% of men versus 39% of women think women are making considerable progress in the last 10 years. When you ask them why, over 50% of men say it's because men have been trying harder. If you ask women why, they say, no, it's their own educational credentials that are driving that process forward. But here's the scary one. Men are unintentional, for the most part, in gender bias. It's not the 80s where there is overt gender discrimination going on in most companies. It's very subtle, or men might not even be aware of it. But 1 out of 2 women versus just 1 out of 4 men today think gender bias is alive in organizations.
Halter says that men are afraid to talk about it because they fear they'll say the wrong thing, and women will report them to human resources. On the other hand, he says that women don't want to talk about gender either.
They want to be recognized as great engineers, great salespeople, great scientists. And yet what is lost in the organization by not being able to talk about this most common denominator of gender?
There's another concept at work here, too, something Halter calls the man code. It's what he says is drilled into little boys almost from the time of birth. Be tough, don't be soft, because those traits are linked to femininity and weakness, and they also have no place in business.
This notion of, in my mind as a man, if I'm even advocating for women's leadership advancement, I'm kind of betraying the man code of doing this kind of touchy-feely, soft skill stuff. So just even men advocating for women flies in the face of many cultural norms that we've been born and raised with. There's another concept around men being a winner, and we're raised to be winners. What that says is, in my mind as a man, if I'm advocating for women, then by default I must be leaving men behind. So I've got a zero-sum mindset.
But the numbers don't bear this out. In fact, Halter says that men still have the advantage in most companies.
The corporations that I work with, the data never says men are being disparagingly impacted by advancing women. Even in companies where they have aggressive promote women programs, 2 out of 3 promotions are still going to men. So there is no factual data that men are being disparaged by advancing women. It's a very emotional argument.
Though some women are making big advances in the workplace, most are still being paid only about 78 cents to a male worker's dollar. Halter says that in many companies, setting wages and giving raises is a complex business.
There are really 3 or 4 reasons that women make less than men for the exact same job. Number 1, only about 6% of women versus 61% of men negotiate their salary coming into the company or when they obtain a promotion. So companies need to say, look, Mary, you want $58,000, well, the job pays $65,000, and so we're going to give you $65,000. Now, that seems counterintuitive as a business leader because, wait a second, I could save $7,000 hiring her. I'll tell you that's fair, but it's not equitable. And that's where companies have to take that internal look and say this is what's the right thing to do.
He says that the second problem is the subtle subjectivity that often permeates the system of giving raises.
If you're managing a department of 15 and you're going to give out ratings, 5s and 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s, what you find is in a department size, you might give Jeff a 4 and you might give Mary a 3.5. And it's just because, Jeff's a little better, particularly in roles like staff functions where you don't have hard measures and metrics. But you give Jeff the benefit of the doubt. Why? For whatever reason. He's more like you than Mary is. But it's very subtle. You don't notice that 0.5%. Quite frankly, Mary's probably pretty happy with her 3.5.
Finally, when women go on maternity leave, Halter says they probably lose another 3 to 4% because they weren't working for several months.
I get back to, well, it's fair, but it's not equitable. So PwC, as an example, just said, we are going to evaluate you based on the time you're here as opposed to a 12-month cycle, because you have no control over that. So this is a company saying, we want to make sure you stay equitable throughout the process.
He says that human resources departments and employers don't really want to discuss these issues. There are also issues about men that nobody wants to discuss. How many of them are floundering in the workplace and in society? Jack Myers is an award-winning documentary filmmaker and author of the book The Future of Men: Masculinity in the 21st Century. He researched all aspects of male relationships in our changing society and finds that many men are forgotten in all of this talk about helping women. He says that men need to step back, take a look at what's happening in the world, and find a new way to proceed.
Men have to learn a new way of responding to relationships, responding in their career, and it's a new definition around what is a man today, what is a real man. It's no longer that strong, silent type from the Gary Cooper era. It's no longer the father knows best era. It's a completely new era. And while women have had the support of the women's movement for 60-plus years to help make this transition and learn how to take advantage of these new opportunities, men don't have the benefit of support groups, of infrastructure to make this transformation. And that's really what the Future of Men book is about. It's about creating awareness of this new reality for men, and it's really calling on men to step up and understand these new realities.
Myers says that young men today are more prepared than their fathers because they've been brought up in a world of gender neutrality, where women have taken leadership roles in schools and in the home. He says that 40% of children grow up in fatherless homes, and that makes a big impression on kids. It also leaves a void for young men who are looking for role models to show them what a man really is.
When they come out of high school or when they come into the workforce, into families, they don't have that infrastructure to support them and help them be good dads, better husbands, better lovers, better workers, better collaborators. And that's really what I focus on, is how do we really call attention to the needs to create better dads, better husbands, and better workers.
Myers says that in addition to more male role models in schools and in families, men need to have help when they start that first job. He says that there's often a structure in place for women to be mentored in a company, and he says that men also need that help.
These young people have grown up, both young men and young women have grown up with gender equality, gender neutrality. It's been an embedded part of their lives. And when they come into an organization and all of a sudden they're segregated, where women get certain advantages that aren't given to the same men, it's confusing to both the men and the women. So if we want true gender neutrality, gender equality, we need to open up those mentoring organizations and have women mentoring young men as well.
Myers also advocates for some financial and employment help for men who can't afford or don't want to go to a 4-year college and can't find work. He says that more lower-cost online educational opportunities for young men, as well as community mentoring and training programs, would help these students find their place in the working world. Finally, Myers says that the media have to change the way they depict men. He says that too often men are portrayed as bumbling idiots who can't change a diaper, wash dishes, or make a big family decision without screwing it up.
Just as we've focused on objectification of women in advertising and media, we need to focus in on how men are being portrayed and the role models that men see for themselves on TV, especially in advertising and commercials. And we need to create a narrative around positive male-female family relationships and constructive contributing dads.
Initiatives for both young men and women are important to create a gender-equal workplace and society. Halter says that when it comes to equal pay and promotions, fathers in business can do a great deal to help their daughters succeed. He came up with the Father of a Daughter initiative to bring dads into the picture. He himself has a daughter that he supported throughout her life, and he thinks that other men should be moving aggressively to bring gender equality into women's work lives.
In fact, fathers of daughters need to be outraged that society only values our daughters at 78 cents to our son. So the Father of Daughter initiative is 10 simple things men can do in the workplace to advocate for women. Go to my website, www.whywomen.biz, and you can download a copy of this. Print this out, put your daughter's name on it, and sign it. And it immediately marks you as a man who wants to advance women in the workplace. You are an advocate. And these are really simple things to do. Things like seeking to understand, talking to a female coworker about the experiences she's having. Talk about the business case within your department around revenue or talent. Support workplace flexibility.
Halter hopes that business leaders will find that having the conversation about this issue will bring gender equality closer for all women and men in the workplace and make companies more responsive to their workers and more productive and profitable for everyone. You can read more about Jeffrey Tobias Halter's Father of a Daughter initiative and suggestions for making business more equal for women in his book, Why Women, available in stores and on his site, the letter Y, women.biz, for an in-depth look at what it means to be a man in the 21st century and how society and business can help them. Pick up Jack Meyer's book, The Future of Men, in stores and online at his site at futureofmen.com. For more about all of our guests, log on to our site at viewpointsonline.net. You can find archives of past programs there and on iTunes and Stitcher. Our show is written and produced by Pat Reuter. Our production directors are Sean Waldron, Ronnie Sidarsky, and Reed Pence. I'm Marty Peterson.
Medicare and their list of suppliers continue to change. So if you have diabetes, it may affect where you get your testing supplies. But rest assured that your number one doctor-recommended one-touch testing supplies are always covered by Medicare Part B at your local pharmacy and select mail-order suppliers. Dr. Brian Levy, Chief Medical Officer at LifeScan, maker of one-touch products.
Some mail-order suppliers may offer a limited selection of diabetes testing supplies. They may try to switch you to a different brand, saying your current products are no longer covered. That's just not true. You are entitled to continue using the products you know and trust and that have been recommended by your healthcare professional at no additional cost.
Remember, you have a choice. Stay with the number one brand used by Medicare patients. For questions about coverage or where to get your one-touch testing supplies, call 1-844-942-2654 or visit www.onetouch.com/Medicare. Medicare Part B is not a guarantee of coverage and payment, which may be subject to coinsurance, deductible, and patient eligibility requirements.
The peak summer travel season means long airport security lines will only be getting longer. Waits of up to 3 hours at some airports have meant lots of missed flights. That's why experts are advising travelers to take advantage of the one way around the wait by enrolling in the TSA PreCheck program. Go through a separate, fast-moving security line at the airport without removing your shoes, laptops, liquids, belts, or light jackets. Getting pre-checked isn't difficult, according to Charles Carroll, Senior Vice President of Enrollment Services at MorphoTrust USA, the firm operating the program for the TSA.
Just go to Identigo.com and make an appointment at one of our approximately 400 Identigo centers. Once there, enrollment agents will verify identity through a passport or birth certificate and other government-issued ID, get some biographical information, and then live scan fingerprints. It takes 5 minutes or less.
Enrollment costs $85, and once approved, enrollees get a KTN, known traveler number, that will help you avoid those long lines for 5 years. Find out more at Identigo.com.